Alright, Trini Trader here, back with another weekly breakdown. Gonna try to keep this breakdown as concise as possible. So we starting with the pound Japanese yen. I mentioned last week that we were coming into the end of the month. However, it was my mistake. I didn't realize that we still have one more week to go again. So it wasn't the last week in the month. However, we did see some nice bearish movement into this strong monthly / weekly / daily support here at around 133 flat thereabout, at which coming into the zone we saw some decent enough bullish price action to give us a little retracement up on this monthly candle. Coming into this week we could see this retracement continue, or we could see the monthly candle come into some level of resistance and push back down to retest the lows of the month. Moving on to the weekly time frame, we could see that this week kind of closed in a semi alright, you can't call it a bullish pin bar because the candle is still red, but a pin bar nonetheless. Okay, this week's candle closed off in some kind of pin bar, where on the monthly we mentioned we pushed into this strong monthly support and then pushed back up. We capitalized on these sells, and last week was a really good trading week. Coming in to the daily time frame now, we could see that after coming into this area of support at around 133 flat, we've consistently made higher highs and higher lows on each daily candle. However, it's not extremely a strong bullish movement, but it's reasonably well that you could have at least taken one buy scalp on this trade. However, we are still in this extremely strong downtrend, so it's just to be aware of the timing in terms of us being at the end of the month this week here, so you just need to be cautious. I kind of coming down to the end of the month, I kind of lower down my take profits in terms of taking smaller take profits. So I take profits between like 25-30 pips. On a good end of month you might get a 40 pips, but just be wary of that. You may want to lower your take profits or lower the amount of pips you take during this end of month, but I could be completely wrong. But that's just what I do. That's how I trade. So I kind of adjust my trading for different times in the month. Mid-month always tends to have the most price action. At the first week of the month and the last week of the month, we kind of get a little bit of slowing down sometimes. So higher highs and higher lows on the daily time frame, consistently trickling up to potentially push up into some resistance and sell off. Alternatively, if we push up around 134.95 thereabout would have been last week's high, I believe. Am I correct? Last week's high came in at 135.31. So let's just identify last week's high. Alright, so we have this area for last week's high, which if you see price push up past last week's high, we know that we're getting a deeper retracement, and the bulls have gained or are trying to regain control of this market. But however, we kind of need to take this. Alright, so we kind of need to take this week day by day. If we drop down to the daily time frame, we just need to follow, and if we continue making higher highs and higher lows, we just need to wait for some support to be created at around any one of these levels and catch buys up into the next area of resistance. Conversely, if we push up into an area of resistance and we see the kind of price action where we're getting some rejections at around any one of these areas, we could sell it down to possibly have a weekly wick fill. And by wick fill I mean this long wick here on the weekly time frame. We could see this wick fill and end the month off with a strong bearish monthly candle. However, I'm unsure. We kind of just need to take this day by day and see what price action is telling us. On the macro level, I am looking for a continuation of this trend, but as this week coming here is definitely the last week in the month, we're really not sure what we're gonna get. Let me see on the daily time frame. If I try to draw, I'm gonna try to get some semblance of a trend line. I mean, it won't be, it's gonna be a bit messy if I try to draw it from there, but what I would do is possibly run my trend from at around this daily candle down into that candle. So yeah, we kind of are breaking out a bit more bullish. Yeah, we kind of had a breakout of this trend here around this area. However, we came into some resistance at around 134.50, pushed down, retested the area, and we got a strong bullish engulfing candle to the upside. So coming in for this week, I'd be looking at this range here, so between 134.95 and 13400. If we could maintain above 13400, we could see a deeper pullback in this monthly candle to close a bit higher to then continue the trend for the next month. Conversely, if we break back below this trend, so if we break below 134 flat and even 133.60 is the safest, it would be a safest bet. If we break below this area, we know that we get in our bearish movement, or we get in our full monthly weekly wick fill, so we just need to be mindful of that. Moving on to Euro USD, we finally got the break in 1.1700 that I've been talking about for some weeks. Well, really nice strong bearish weekly candle, indicating that we are going to see a start of a new downtrend to possibly retest this low here on the weekly time frame. If we take a glance at this monthly candle here, we see we broke the low of the previous monthly candle and we're pushing down currently. What do I see happening here? Last week's low for Euro USD came in at 1.1612 at around this region. So if we could maintain this support, push up to retest 1700 flat to continue the trend, that would be nice. Also, we have this downtrend line here forming, where we formed a high, formed a low, and formed a lower high, then a lower low, then a lower high, and we're breaking down into these lows here. So last week's low was created at around this region, as I mentioned. So if we could see a retracement up into 1700 or 1750, as we see that the downtrend line, that would be like a retest of the downtrend line. We could catch the trend to sell it down. Alternatively, if we break below last week's low, retest the area as resistance, we could sell down, right? However, last week's low isn't a very strong low, so I wouldn't bank on us getting a perfect retest there. But you see this zone here, if you look to the left on the daily time frame, there's a really nice zone for us to get a retest anywhere between 1750 and 1700. Alternatively, we could push up deeper into 1800, but I would not like to see that deeper retracement. But if it happens, I will capitalize on it. We did really good on this pair last week, banked about approximately like 100 pips, I'd say. Dropping down to the 4-hour time frame. Yeah, this isn't like a really strong resistance, but it's a support, but it's a support nonetheless. We could see the market structure currently forming lower highs and lower lows. We just need to see what level of retracement we can get to catch another entry for sells further down. Two best bets: a retest at around any one of these resistances. These three would be ideal. Alternatively, if we break below this area, retest as resistance. Because if you look on the left on the forward time frame, you get to see that we have a kind of minor resistance on this side, which is currently providing minor support. So if we could break this area, retest it, and sell it further down to the levels mentioned, because ideally I'm looking for us to get into 1500, 1.1500. So we kind of just need to see what happens. Take a glance on the monthly time frame again. Yeah, remember we have the strong monthly downtrend on the weekly time frame. Yeah, we're coming into these areas now. As I mentioned in a previous video, this for me indicated a start of a new uptrend, but we're not sure, because of how strong on the monthly time frame this resistance is, if this uptrend would continue. But we're currently coming down potentially into some retracement zones. If I draw a Fibonacci for those people that like fibs or use fibs, yeah, at around 1500 is the 0.618 level, which is a really nice level for us to get a retracement into to further the uptrend, the potential uptrend on this pair. Alternatively, we could come down into the 0.786 level at around 1.1350 there about. So remember, fibs isn't that anything special, right guys? This is just showing me areas of support and resistance if you know how to use them. So even if I didn't draw those fibs on my chart, I would always be aware of the 1.1500 level that we mentioned previously, and after that the next level would be around this area, which would coincide with the 0.786 level that we just saw on the fibs. So this for me would be the low to beat. If we break below 1.1176, don't expect that to happen this week, but if we do break below this area, we would be seeing us potentially coming down to create a lower low and continue the monthly downtrend. But alternatively, we could see ourselves come into some support at along this area for us to push back up to retest the high on the monthly time frame. So looking for more bears on Euro USD. Moving on to the pound USD, we had a really, well, not a slow week on the pound USD, but we didn't see the level of price action that we saw on other pairs. How much is that? Okay, that's not right. I take that back. That's 280 pips. I wasn't looking at this pair last week, so really wasn't sure. But I mentioned in the weekly video that we could see a retracement up to possibly retest this area at 1.300 and then push back down. We didn't make it, ideally to 1.300. However, if you follow my emphasis on the trend and lower highs and lower lows, this would have been a lower high forming lower than the previous high on the weekly time frame. So this weekly candle has created a weak, really perfect area to catch some sells down, and we push down into 1.2677 on the weekly time frame. Dropping down to the daily time frame, we could see a really nice trend is being created here. We have a high, we had a low, we had a lower high, and this currently is our lower low. I could try to see if this is creating some kind of trend line here. Yeah, it is actually, where we retested this area, sold off, which was the break in the uptrend line on the daily time frame. Pushed down, created our lower low, which created last week's low, pushed back up and retested this zone at 1.2800, and we kind of pushed back down, but we formed this extremely indecisive doji candle with not much body. So we kind of need to wait to see if we break out of any one of these ranges. Let me see how big that looks like. A pretty big range though. Yeah, that's 130 pip range. So quite possibly we could see a retracement into one of these zones to sell down into last week's low again. I mean, that's 130 pips. So it's a pretty big range, so I don't think it's bad to really try to play that kind of range. So if we take a look at it on the 4-hour time frame to get an idea of what we're seeing. So yeah, we retested this area here, push back down, but we seem to be getting some support at around this zone here. Yeah, so you see where that blue box is? We seem to be getting some support at around this area. So what I would gauge for this week is I'd be looking at this area of support to see if we get a retracement and form some kind of bullish price action at around this area to possibly get a deeper retracement in for some buys. We could probably see some range in this week where price just kind of ping pongs between this 100 pip range, and at which you all know what to do, play the ranges. Alternatively, this week entirely, I'm inclined to take this week off from trading, because I mean these last 2 weeks, previous 2 weeks has been a really good trading week for me personally. So I might take the week off and just relax a little bit, regroup mentally and prepare for the next month. But we just see how what kind of price action I get coming into this week. But I'm not trading aggressive this week at all. Moving down to, what am I forgetting anything? All right, let's just kind of neaten up this trend line. If I zoom out, just so we could be a bit more precise with the trend. Yeah. So that's our trend currently forming on the daily, 4 and weekly time frames. If we break up above this trend, so this area here at 1.28 for me would be an ideal area. If we manage to break up above this level and get some bullish support at around this region, you could see us push up to retest 1.300 flat. However, I'm really not sure. So I'm kind of taking this week day by day, but it genuinely is not an aggressive trading week for me personally, as it is the end of the month, and I'm sure this time that it is the end of the month. Moving on to the pound Australian dollar, this is the only pair I think that didn't continue its bearish pattern ideally as we would have liked. However, we are currently creating a lower low, currently retesting the strong area of resistance. Let's start with the weekly time frame on this pair. Let me take a glance at the monthly to see how deep of a retracement on the monthly that would have been. Wow, look at that. Right, so this monthly candle pushed all the way down to this region and we got a really strong bullish reaction. And if we look to the left, this is a really strong area of support on the monthly time frame. So we push it down into that region and it's currently pushing back up. Primarily, I think this is because of some weakness in the Australian dollar. So pound against the Australian dollar, they would increase in price. So we are currently pushing up in the area here, potentially creating a lower high, lower than this previous week's high. So if we could maintain below this week's high, we would hopefully be creating a lower high and continuing this downtrend. But if we break above 1.8182, which is possible because this is a really strong bullish weekly candle for me, although it's not an engulfing weekly candle because we didn't pass the high of the previous week, it is still very bullish. So you need to be aware that there are a lot of bulls in this market currently, so we just need to play price action. What I would do is I would draw there is an area of potential support at around this region here, because if you look left here, we kind of got some support at along this region and push back up. So this would be my area of support. Taking a look at it now, and on the daily time frame here, we pushed up, got some support, and continued up into the zone. However, last week's high is an extremely strong area of resistance, so you kind of could look at this area to catch some sells. Whether or not that's gonna happen this week, as it is end of month, I'm really not sure, but play day by day and let's just see how it goes. Moving on to Euro Japanese Yen, really nice price action on this pair. We've currently pushed down into 122.50 there about, and we seem to be catching some support at around this region. Let's take a look at the weekly time frame. Yeah, really nice, strong, clear, bearish weekly candles, creating a low at around 122.50 there about last week. So we could see a little retracement or even a doji candle created as it's end of month, last week in the month. I'm really not sure, just gonna take it day by day as I mentioned in previous pairs. However, I anticipate us continuing this downtrend. Let's see, we push down into this area and we've just been moving between this area, this range. So price has been consolidating along this region. We just need to look at last week's low at 122.50. If we break below last week's low, we know we're continuing the trend. However, we've seen some support being created, so we could see a deeper retracement up. However, I don't anticipate that much deeper retracement as it is the time of the month that I mentioned previously. So currently finding support at along this region. If we break support, I'd be selling it down into some of these lower levels. If we maintain support, we could catch a buy, but if you want to be like, you know, trader supreme with the most discipline, you would remember that it is a downtrend, so you don't want to trade against the trend. So you wait out the buys on the retracement, but wait for us to push up into some area of resistance and take the sells down. The choice is yours. I suggest the latter. Not avoid taking the buys in this kind of bearish market and take your sells as soon as we push up into some level of resistance and you see the kind of price action indicating that there may be a push down. So I hope this was helpful. I know this week's video wasn't very in depth, as at the end of the month we really had an amazing 2 weeks, these past 2 weeks. So I mean, it's always good to, you know, take a little break, take a little rest, relax a bit. I mean, you could look at the market and not actively trade, which is what I would be doing. I'll just be looking at the market, gauging, seeing what kind of price action I get. But if I see a lot of volume coming in and the kind of price action that I like, I would enter a trade, but I'm not trading aggressively. As last 2 weeks was really good, you don't want to give back profits to the market, right? So as it's end of month, and this end of month is kind of tricky because I think the last day in this month is like midweek or like Thursday or Wednesday, somewhere thereabout, and then the new month, the monthly candle would print like from Friday or something. So I mean, it could be tricky, or we could just see some really nice price action in one direction. But we kind of need to gauge and wait and see. I identified to you guys all the levels on all the pairs that I'll be looking at. But if you feel like you could take a break this month, I suggest doing it, to be honest. I mean, things have been really well, and if things haven't been well for you, hit me a DM and we could kind of see what kind of trades you took this month and where you went wrong, and, you know, try my best to help, because we want everybody to be profitable. So this concludes another weekly breakdown. I'm logging out. Enjoy your week, guys.